What's up, folks? If you're curious about everything that we learned after spending $50 million in ads, stick through the end because I got some sauce giving you the Coca-Cola recipe today, ladies and gentlemen. How is it that you can achieve 7-second average video watch times on your creatives? Well, why should you care? Why should you care what I say? Well, let's talk about that. Well, here's the ad account year to date of the agency that I sold. And I'm also a best-selling Amazon author. I co-authored this book with my dear friend Jonathan Laudermilk, and we hit bestseller on Amazon. So if you want to know step by step how to prevent making the same mistakes that most marketing agencies make when it comes to running their own ads, then stick through to the end because we're going to talk about how to fix them. So there's really two kinds of agencies, right? You have the more veteran agency that's referral driven. Usually with year one, they're going to start off slow and eventually might pick up some steam. Year three is get an influx, slowly start building. And year four, things start accelerating a little bit. And then year five, things really start picking up steam. But it generally looks like this for any agency that relies on referrals, without question. It always happens this way where things are up and down, right? Because when it comes to referrals, when it rains, it pours, which is great when it pours, but sometimes people will be often in a drought where they don't have consistent business or consistent pipeline coming in. Just talking to an agency owner, they've been doing $1 million for the last few years, but they're on year 11 and they lost 30% of their revenue over the past year because they didn't have a consistent acquisition system. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today is our conversion accelerator formula, how it ties into the acquisition flywheel to build a business that consistently and perpetually grows month over month without those ups and downs and those peaks and valleys. Now, you might have the second type of agency where they're going to start off with LinkedIn automation or cold email. They're going to hit a certain point, right? They might get to like 20K per month and they flatline, go through the same kind of peaks and valleys until they can crack another channel. And then when they do crack another channel, things go like this. This was how we grew. About like this. For us, we had started off year one, got to like 10K per month. Year two, we hovered at 20K per month. Year three was like this. And then year four was like this. Why? Because we cracked a predictable acquisition channel. So oftentimes, like agencies will start off with LinkedIn automation or outbound email. And the problem with this is that it caps out very quickly. Most of these folks will cap out, like I mentioned, around 10, 20K if they're lucky per month, but they don't have a way that they can continue to scale or exponentially grow. And if they're lucky, they'll get some referrals on top of that. But like I mentioned before, you always want referrals as a channel. However, it goes up and down. It's not reliable. So how is it that we solve this? Well, Today, I'm going to be talking to you about our 5-star creative recipe and each ingredient that makes a winning creative. Now, the reason why this matters is because with a lot of these other channels, right, you turn on the faucet and you only get so much water out of it. But with ads, you can turn on that faucet and it continues to grow the more that you turn it. The more money that you put into it, the more that you're going to get out of it in a way that is systemized. And so if you've watched any of my other videos, you know, and I'm going to say this again for like the millionth time. And if you've heard me say this, well, here it is again. Creative is 47% of the reason why somebody buys a product or service. So what are the ingredients of a winning creative? I'll stay through the end because I'm going to be breaking down exactly the hook, the native style advertising, and then what goes into a landing page. So oftentimes, and again, the problem with most agency owners that are doing 6 figures, low, mid 6 figures per year is that you have the CEO, you might have a media buyer, you might have an appointment setter, you might have an onshore salesperson or an account manager or no design team. So what's the issue with this? Well, usually the CEO is wearing all the hats or managing all of these different people simultaneously. And so what they do, if you're an agency owner that does this, I'm talking to you because I know you do it. You just look at your competitors' ads, copy them, copy their landing page, copy their branding, and then launch the ads. Now, before I dive into that, I want to dive into the problem with this org chart or this structure. It's the law of finite energy. So if you're focusing on one thing, think about how much more you can get done. If you're focusing on 2 things, you get done less. Focus on 3 things, even less. And if you focus on 4 things, you get even less things done. But if you're doing this and you're focusing and you have a limited focus on the most important part of your business, which is your client acquisition and your fulfillment. Because if your client acquisition is not completely dialed in, or if you're split focused on that, among other things, how effective do you think it can be? Now, this is magnified by the fact that if you're running ads for your clients, and this is the same thing that you're doing for them, is your focus is split between all these different things of your business, your appointment setting, your media buying, not just for yourself, but also for your clients. How effective do you anticipate your creatives and your creative strategy to be? With the law of finite energy in mind. So how is it that you fix this? Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment, but I do want to talk about the law of diminishing returns, because if you're taking the creative of your competitors and you're taking their branding, you're taking their copy, then if everybody else in the market is doing this, which they are, they look at the market leader and then they just take their creatives, then eventually your ads are going to cap out. Your cost per lead is going to skyrocket and go through the roof because they're seeing the same shit as everybody else. You're showing them the same shit as everybody else. And this is what the law of diminishing returns talks about, because in our call center business, you would go through a certain list, and at first we'd crush that list. The list would be great. But as more time went on, we would get less and less returns from that list. Now, if you're marketing to the same people, the same message and the same creatives, how long until that message runs its course and becomes dry? Now, I just acquired a majority stake in another agency, Lead Care, and focusing on surgeons. And this one surgeon talked to us about how their agency, they came to them and they said, hey, like, why is our cost per lead getting so high all of a sudden? And then the agency actually turned around and said, I don't know. So do you really want to be that person? Do you really want to be that agency? Of course you don't. And so that's why it's important. It's critical for you and your client's success to understand the law of diminishing returns. Now, what you don't want to do in that situation is just reactively scramble to try to find some other creatives to replace them that you just copied from somebody else again. Because this same problem is this cycle is gonna repeat itself. And you're never gonna understand exactly how to make a winning creative on your own. What are the ingredients to make a winning cake? So great service and operations is about being proactive as opposed to reactive. This is one of the first lessons that I learned from my dear friend Brian Purley. Built a company of over 4,000 employees as he was helping me transition from working in my business to becoming an executive to work on my business. Now, you don't need to pay him a fat, juicy retainer to learn that because they're on the YouTube channel. You're getting it for free. So if you want more of this type of content, subscribe. So any marketer needs to have a plan that can adapt to changing market conditions as the campaign inevitably hits speed bumps and we face the impact of those market conditions, excuse me. So it's kind of like hiring a sailor. Do you really want to be the sailor that's that's sailed through smooth waters? Because who do you think somebody wants to hire? A sailor who's only sailed through smooth waters, or a sailor that's been through a few storms? So let's break out the three components of our 5-star creative recipe. Start off with the hook. Now, this is super important, guys, because the hook is 80% of it, according to Hormozi. So what are the problems that your market segment currently faces? Really think about the market segment. Who can effortlessly afford the ROI? Who has the problem? And who can we almost guarantee results to? And then what are the pain points that keep them up at night? Really think about that. What is it? What are the problems that they're facing that are consistently inhibiting the growth of their business? And then how aware are they of the problem? There's 5 stages of awareness. See, unaware, which means that they don't even know that they have a problem. There's those that are problem aware, which means that they are aware of a problem and they're actively trying to find a solution. And then there's those that are solution aware, which means that they know about the solution. They know the solution that they need to solve their problem. And there's product aware, which means that they know about the solutions that are available. And there's the most aware, who know the brand. So for example, most aware would be, you need new running shoes. Who are the brands that you think of? Right? Nike, Adidas, of course. Then if you don't even know that you have a problem, if you're still in that stage of, or if the market is still in that stage of unconscious competence, then we need to focus more on educating them and talking about this problem and how it's actually impacting their business, because they might just have a feeling that something's wrong without actually being able to put words or intellectually articulate what their problem is. For example, a big thing within our last agency is that realtors were unaware that they needed to know their customer acquisition cost. They had no idea that was the most important thing for them to focus on. And so what we had done is we just built out a system or a formula for them to show them, like, hey, this is how it is that you can actually be profitable running your campaigns with us. Then we also made sure that we were educating them through our marketing to let them know, hey, this is how it is that you can solve your lead problem. Because all of them had a lead problem, but none of them actually knew the root cause, or how the fact that they were just getting bad leads, they couldn't actually figure out how to know whether or not the leads were good or not. So how is it that you can create a hook? Well, you want to use data or emotion or something extravagant or ridiculous to create motion, or excuse me, to create motion or capture their attention. So, what are the statistics that are relevant to this specific problem? Now, what are the benchmarks that are relevant to understanding this problem? For example, the average marketing agency's monthly churn is 7%, which means they lose 7% of their clients every month. Now, if your video, excuse me, is not achieving 6 seconds average video watch time, it's unlikely to be able to scale as a winner. This is the main indicator for the efficacy of the hook. So if you want the secret sauce of how to maintain 7 video watch time, stick through to the end because I have more for you. This brings me to the second piece, native style ads. What is native advertising? Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment, but the question that you need to ask is what content is the audience actively consuming? What content are they seeing on their feed? So this boils down into a few different things: influencer lifestyle content, podcast style creatives, and viral TikToks or viral memes. So, i.e., trends. This is super important, guys, if you want to maintain high video watch time for your advertising. Now, to support this with more data, the Native Advertising Institute studies show that native ads are 8.8x more effective, than regular advertising. So how is it that we can create content that looks, or ads that look native, or that they're just normally part of this person's feed? For example, imagine somebody asks you for directions. You're likely to stop and help them, right? Because that's the pattern that our brain is typically in. Now imagine somebody tries to sell you something and then they try to ask you for directions. Are you going to help them? You'll be like, no, fuck off, dude. I'm not interested. Why? Well, it's because the reptilian brain delegates patterns. Soon as we start to understand a pattern, our brain is going to put that in a bucket to say, hey, this actually is just something that is, this is just a pattern that I put into this bucket. In the instance of somebody tried to sell you something, you're like, leave me alone, buddy. Or a homeless person asking you for money is another one. Most people ignore them and just continue walking by. So our brain creates systems to use as little energy as possible. And so homework for you is to notice how it is that you respond to certain things. Notice how you respond when you see an ad in your feed. Most of the time, you dismiss it, right? So the third ingredient of our 5-star creative recipe is the landing page. Now there's 2 elements that dictate quality design of a landing page, because oftentimes people don't really realize the difference of a performance between just a standard landing page, like a Honda Civic type landing page, versus a Lamborghini. So I want to show you a Lamborghini. You look at this. See, look at the movement here. Look at how the information is presented. It's concise. This data creates curiosity. There's more movement, more design. And then social proof, because of course, and then a calendar. So this is a landing page that our team designed. Now, most people think that they can get by with just like a basic, like bullshit kind of landing page. And this is the first landing page that we had come up with. Pull up an example here. So let me show you a beater Honda Civic landing page versus a Lamborghini. So this is a beater Honda Civic. This is the first one that we launched. We're just minimal viable product. Versus this is a Lamborghini. See the movement, how it comes in from the left. That's generally how because of how we read in the West and how we read from left to right, is our brain is more accustomed to moving. Our eyes are more accustomed to moving that way anyway. So anytime somebody actually lands on the landing page, if you look at Hotjar or anything, their eyes are always going to move like that. More movement, about us, more movement, testimonials, more movement. So, and what blows my mind is just how many agencies don't actually know this. Like, I don't actually know how the Facebook algorithm works. Not just Facebook, but this applies to Google as well. If you have a Honda Civic beater for a landing page, then Facebook is actually going to score the quality of your creatives less. Why does that matter? Well, because of the auction and how it works, there's two input variables that dictate the auction, which is the quality of the creative. And then number two is how much we're spending. And so Facebook is going to show your message to more people because it prioritizes the user experience over ad spend, over money. So 70% of our brains are dedicated to visual processing. So if we're not dialing in, how is it that our brains work psychologically with on the on-page conversions and how that works, plus with how is it that we're capturing the attention of, and how it is that we're both leveraging the algorithm and how it is that we're also leveraging human psychology to drive the quality of our landing pages and thus the quality score of our creative as a whole, that we're leaving a shitload of money on the table. Now, I'm going to show you a case study where nothing changing with one of our clients' campaigns and just changing the landing pages reduced the cost per lead by 40%. Now, stay through for the end because I'm going to showcase that example. But another analogy to think about is like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, where the T-Rex responds to movement and they say, don't move, folks. Chill, relax. But we actually want the T-Rex to chase us because in this example, the T-Rex is the human. And them chasing us is the next step in the funnel. So that landing page example that I just shared for one of our clients, you can see before cost per lead, $100, $50, $50, $60. There's after $30. Is that insane? Huge difference. So I want to give you guys some additional value as well, because I talked about viral TikToks and trends and viral memes. So if you want to know, and if you want to be able to take with you the viral memes and be able to put this in your creative so that you can produce some native style ads yourself, go ahead and subscribe to the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group in the description, because I'm only going to give this away to 5 people for free, as opposed to you having to hire an editor, spend hours and hours researching which memes are going viral on TikTok to be able to then repurpose and green screen. We're going to have all the green screens ready for you so you can just take them and send them off to your editor for you to be able to plug into your creative. So we're going to give that away for free to the first 5 people that go ahead and subscribe and join our Facebook group. So after listening and watching this video.